You are now listening to Carlie's Couch.
I'm Carlie.
And I'm Lex.
In this podcast, we discuss a wide array of topics about life and how to live your best life.
Whatever that looks like for you.
Hope y'all enjoy. This week on Carlie's Couch, we discuss the difference between being and doing and how to balance them both.
Welcome to Carlie's Couch. My name is Lextopia. We got CC Fierce to my right.
And Marvel on the floor. If you're watching the video, you might be able to see her.
Yeah, she's going to be everywhere throughout the episode, no doubt. Shout out Kyle and RJ for having me babysit again, because apparently y'all are living the life.
We love that.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it. Do your thing. Just next time I ask for something, don't be acting brand new. We hope everybody's doing well. We are excited for this topic because we were able to have interesting conversation about it. So hopefully it's something that will spark your mind as well to think, okay, so what is the difference between being and doing, and why does it matter? But first today, let's get into our question of the week.
This week's question was, what's the weirdest / most unique thing you've seen in someone else's home?
The first one is so stupid.
Yo, they sent a picture. It was wild. It vanished. I would have screenshotted to save you, but it vanished.
Now they took a picture of it. That's when you know it's real. Okay, so this says a painting of a fetus / baby in a jacket with its umbilical cord still attached on a gradient background.
It's as wild as you think it is. It had a little rainbow background, yellow, red, orange. And there's a little baby just laying there with an umbilical cord, a little white baby with an umbilical cord, and then in a little jacket.
Like a legit painting?
Like someone did it
at
they
bought it?
No,
or they did
someone did it at a sip and paint, but
that's real.
Okay. Because at first
crazy.
I just saw the message and then I saw the picture and I was like, oh, it's exactly how you described, but
yeah, that's crazy.
Very colorful. Okay. Someone said the Elephant Man's bones.
What?
Wild.
Another person said sex toy / dildo shelf. I've had that experience with some people I babysit for their kid, but I was being nosy, so that's on me.
Well, so I actually had one of those. I went to visit my friend. My friend's mom was having a poetry thing, so it's all these older people. And then I walked into her quote unquote uncle's house, her play uncle, and there was a whole table of glass dildos. But they were
just out though.
They were just out. They were decoration, decor, if you will. And
That's
I was
funny.
like, "Are those?" And he was like, "Yeah, I wouldn't touch those." And I was like, "I'm not, but thank you for letting me know."
That's funny. Yeah, I think I have at least 4 folks that I've stumbled across that before. But as you get older, you're like, all right,
I get it.
You open the wrong drawer, it's like, okay, cool. Do your thing.
I was actually laughing.
Yeah.
I saw a tweet that the Fat Kid Deals had tweeted the sex swing whatever, but then someone else retweeted it and was like, okay, I use this to wash my St. Bernards. They said I hang it from a tree and put the dog in there so I can wash them. They're like, it's a site, but it actually works. So if you got a big ass dog, get a sex swing and then wash your dog in the sex swing. Okay, and then so for me, I was thinking, what is the most unique thing? Not just the weirdest, but the most unique. And there's a house that I've been to that they have 7-8 foot dinosaur sculptures in the backyard.
Okay.
But it's in LA, so it's probably came from a movie set or some artist or something. But then they also have an all red bathroom, think Prince, and then put that in a bathroom. So the guest bathroom, it has red lights, a red tub, red wallpaper, red ceiling, red floor, red this, red that whole think about Prince if instead of purple it was red rain.
Those are interesting things. I'm not going to hold y'all. I can't think of anything else that I would feel like is so super unique or interesting. And also, I don't know. I also think my memory's trash. So I'm just going to laugh at these. I would like a little more information on a couple of them. But yeah, very, very interesting. Let's get into today's episode, which we talked about it recently. But as you all know, Carlie had just did a retreat in New Mexico, right? Mm-hmm. In New Mexico, where the theme of the retreat was being versus doing. And the way she explained it was hey, for all of you who are participating, it's your choice if you want to do what we're doing, if you want to just be and just relax. Essentially, to me, it feels like you were just saying, hey, do what you want to do. We have things that we've prepared, and feel free to just go where the wind is calling you. So, Carlie, when you developed out that retreat with somebody else, and please shout her out because I don't remember what her name was. Anna. Mm-hmm. So when you and Anna created this retreat, how did you guys come up with the theme of being versus doing for that?
Great question. So I am a doer. I'm all fire. I do a lot of things. I'm always moving around. And Anna's a beer. Like she is a person who just floats like a little fairy goddess from here to there. She's really good at being. And so I think we have a great mix of energies, even in the way we teach, and then the way we do things. And so I was like, man, it's so beautiful. A lesson that I've learned in her and I's friendship is to be more present, to learn how to be in the moment. And something she learns from me is a little bit more fire, a little bit more get up and go. And so we were thinking about creating a brave space for people to heal and explore themselves and just plan. We wanted it to be a choose your own adventure, which I actually learned from you. I didn't know what those were until we talked about them. Yeah. Oklahoma apparently had a law against them because I never saw them before.
That's crazy.
And so, it started making me think about how life is really a choose your own adventure, and we can get so caught in the doing of things, which our society is very capitalistic, do this, do that, your worth is in your productivity, do, that we don't ever take a chance to be. And it's almost like we miss out on so much of life when you don't allow yourself. And so we wanted to challenge people to maybe try something different. If you are always a person who does things, what does it look like to be? Mm-hmm. And if you're a beer, what does it look like to challenge yourself and get out of your comfort zone and go do something?
Okay, so it almost sounds like it is just the way a person is wired at that point, whether they might be a doer or a beer. But are you saying that one is better than the other? Like we should strive to be more of a beer, or that we should strive to be more of a doer?
I would strive for balance. So thinking about I think there are seasons. I do think there are seasons when you need to do and get out there and go. But I also think that so much of life is in the reflection, is in the pause, is in the stillness, is in the learning. And we don't ever stop long enough between doing and being to really absorb all of the growth and all of the lessons and all of the beauty in those in-between moments.
Or sometimes I keep wanting to make it even more simple to be like, sometimes you're not thinking about anything. Like even in being, I don't feel like that means you have to sit there and reflect on anything necessarily, but that you're just kind of doing what you feel like doing in that moment, which is still confusing. And why I was kind of confused about this a little bit, because, I love semantics, but it's like, even while talking about being, we're still saying the word doing. And so let's talk about like, what's exactly the difference between the two? How would you define or describe doing, or like this mindset of being a doer?
Yeah, I feel like doing is the easy one. So it is the act of performing or executing. Shout out to Merriam-Webster. Action that will take a great deal of doing. It's whenever you're super action oriented, your mindset to get things done. It's like you want results. You're working towards a thing. You have goals. It shows up. We all have to-do lists, agendas. Look at our calendars, our schedules, projects, deadlines. And I think that it's really externally facing and focused. Maybe future focused, like you're always working towards the thing, towards this goal. And if you're thinking about like how it shows up in your life, anytime you're like hustle, overwhelmed, hurried, rushing, it can be real stressful. There's a lot of pressure like to do this, and maybe not even on that side, but there's a lot of like drive and passion towards the thing, like you're pushing kind of.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like it's more about movement and more about like internally your body is on go mode or has more adrenaline, because I would for sure feel that I would define the being part is definitely like you're not affected by having to do anything, or you're not really moving in an intentional manner of trying to accomplish something, which is what adds like the stress and all of that to it. So being is a present focus. So if I'm focused on the present, and we say this in all different kind of ways and you hear it everywhere, if you're focused on the present, you're not thinking about what needs to be done, or you're not necessarily reflecting on what somebody said. You're enjoying the moment that you're in. So that's a big part of it. So it's entirely wrapped up in the right here, and not to again confuse with doing, but it's like, what am I doing right now? Like, this is what I'm doing. So I'm going to enjoy this moment. I'm going to lean in perhaps to the moment, whatever that might mean, because that could maybe be any emotion, and just have that time. It's internally focused, as I guess you can tell, and it kind of sounds. And being shows up in mind and body, like mindfulness, rest, ease, flow. When you're kind of in the zone, for me, I would think it's like you're not thinking so much in that time. Which is really like the gym of it. You're not thinking about stuff. You're just being. I feel like that sounds so like, okay, cool. But I also feel like a person will know, or you would know when you're in that vibe and in that space.
Yeah, I was about to say the only thing I would add is that there's not an agenda. Like it's really like it's not forward focused. You're not focused in the past. Like you're not preoccupied. It really is just that like flow, not like flow work state, but kind of flowing state.
Okay.
And so for you, now we've kind of like defined them and what we mean when we say being and doing. What is your balance of doing and being? I feel like you're pretty balanced.
Yeah, I do too. Every day I have some of both, or if I can, there again, like you said, there are some days where if you're going to an event or you're doing something, it does feel like you wake up and you're in that mode of today is just a due day. However, for the most part, I feel that the being time for me is if I'm not looking at my phone, not thinking about the time, if I'm making sure that I'm doing something that I just feel like doing in the moment. Usually it's relaxing, reading, drinking my coffee, maybe sitting on the balcony. Even while I'm doing things like eating my lunch sometimes, like if I go eat it on the balcony, for me, that's kind of like a being moment. And I would also say, though, that in my doing, I do strive for my doing to feel like being. And it does a little bit, I think, because I have been able to determine like what I do, but I also recognize for sure that I will have more stress in my life if I'm not doing to a certain level to make sure that I have what I need for life and to not feel stressed per se. And so I think the right amount of doing what an efficient like doing kind of can keep you in a space that allows me to enjoy my being time and allows me to not enjoy the doing so much.
I think that's so important. I used to be like when Anna and I first became friends, I was much more go, hustling, had 11 hustles, was going from job to job to job and had no time to chill. But then COVID happened and everybody kind of got a reset and kind of learned how to be. Everybody started baking bread, started exercising, got plants, was more present with things. Like I think that was a good reset for people, not rest in peace to all the people that passed away. Not saying that it wasn't a global thing that affected everybody, but also it did give people an opportunity to actually stop for a second. And now, and then after my mom passed too, actually, I took a lot of time in just being because I couldn't do it. It was kind of tough for me to do all the things that I was in that moment. And so now I have much more balance. Like you said, every day kind of starts with me being. I have time in the morning to go where I'm called. If I want to lay in bed for an extra 20, 30 minutes, if I want to read my book, if I want to walk through the neighborhood and smell flowers, not like I need to get my steps, not a workout walk, none of that, just enjoying being in nature, read my book. And it's so cool now that I've integrated more being in my life because I'm not as stressed in all the doing. Like I remember I used to go from client to client and I would have to like do some breath work and try to bring my heart rate down and relax before I go in to see another client. And now I don't have to do that. Like I actually just thought about that. That's a big thing. And I think that's why I really wanted to talk about this. And I think it's so important. That's why I made it a whole retreat like formula or the formula for our retreat, because we really can feel better and less stressed whenever we have a balance of both. I also, like you said, it's efficient doing. You're not just doing just to do, but it can create a space where you feel really good in your life.
Yeah. And for me, though, I think I would call it less of balance and more of, even when I think of another example, all of the doing, it does kind of become being, or I see how it does. So, for example, also, after one of my last vacations or trips, I lost my watch, which I saw when I put it in my suitcase. I don't know what happened, but I lost my Garmin watch. And so I was like, oh, man, I ain't never going to run again because now I can't see my stats and all the things. But then the other day I went running and I didn't have it. So I just turned on like the Strava app so it can just do, the regular recording as I move. And I was like, oh, this is kind of more interesting because like I have no idea how long I've gone. I have no idea how far I've gone, but I'm just running. And so there was the fuel of doing it and reasons why I wanted to do it and all of that. And yet when I went to do it, I could allow myself to be while I'm in that space. And so I think it's very similar, even with work stuff, that you can still hope to try to find a space of feeling like you're flowing in it or finding your flow state in all the things that you do.
I want y'all to think about like your lives and your balance, if you feel it not balanced, but what are some tips you think that helped you transition to being able to even feeling more present and more being in your doing? Do you have any things that...
I'm not sure if, well, the question is, what are tips for transitioning like the doing to feeling more like being? Actually, they are, the word isn't planning, but I would say thinking less about numbers and results. So like even with doing a thing, but that was an important part to get started with it, right? So I think it is still all part of the process of things. Even with work, like you need to know what your sales goals are. You need to know what numbers you need to hit for this and that. And so, yes, it's like you have that time of doing where you planned and did the thing. And at a certain point, I guess refocusing maybe to focus less on those results and the numbers throughout and more on the actual actions, whether that is the, okay, I'm brainstorming this campaign, or it's the, all right, well, I'm just going to run and I actually count the miles. But it was interesting because in my mind, I still knew like, oh, I want to get to a certain amount. And so I still kept pushing myself, but I didn't know where I was, but I still kept pushing myself. And same with work. Maybe it's like, all right, obviously, you want to see a successful result, and you're actually just fueled by like looking at what you're doing in the work instead of trying to count against every little thing, which can almost kind of be like a deterrent from like, oh man, I'm only here, So it's like just kind of, maybe that's one thing. If that answers it even, I don't even know. But a move away from the numbers or tracking.
Yeah, less of like outcome focus, maybe.
Yeah.
Like you use outwork as a framework.
You said it. Yeah, you said it. And then you shift the focus to the thing the present thing you're doing.
I think that's important. Focusing on the process has been huge, and how it makes me wildly more productive also. But I think another thing is doing mode. We're not saying it's bad. Doing is great. You get things done. You feel rewarded. But the issue is, sometimes I think we don't turn off our doing brain, like the very results oriented brain, whenever we're doing, like thinking through things like feelings or self-worth or identities or healing or any of that. Like there's not going to be those outcomes. And so it can be very problematic whenever you have a doing mindset in things that are meant to be part of your just being and living. And so thinking about where you might do that in your life.
Is it fair to say that there is a doing way to do things and a being way to do things? Because I hate that I said do for both, and that's because I don't know how else to explain it. But that makes sense to you, right? And I feel like maybe that's kind of what all this episode is getting to, because that's also kind of what I was explaining earlier, that yes, you have to do a lot of things, like you have to live, etc., and to do it in a certain space that's a little bit more peaceful, a little more calm. There's a doing and being way to do all of the things we've talked about today. And what you just were saying about, like, let's say you're going through something and you're trying to figure out like, hey, how can I get through this? And we're doers through that. I'm a doer through that, because I'm gonna start Googling and looking up stuff and all that, right? As opposed to the being of it may need to be like, all right, instead of me reading 500 articles, that's me looking outside and consuming and all the other things. It's like, why don't you just kind of try to sit with yourself, and reflect more internally. And the being way of that might also even be just acknowledging what you really already know. Like, man, I know it's this. And you just are like doing the most because you need to intellectualize everything. And so being a doer, and having that doing attitude towards everything is a little bit more of like intellectualizing it, and almost in a sense needing the validation of something outside, or these numbers, or this success, or this thing, as opposed to making decisions about your life and then actually living through it and kind of just being.
Did we just discover the secret of life?
It kind of feels like it. Kind of feels like it. And then there's like, how do you do that? I'm curious too with Anna, when you say she's a beer, what are the little things, like what does she do that makes you be like, oh, you're a beer?
Let's see. She
Because I'm curious, is it just gonna be like, oh, you're not a planner, you're not organized, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
which is not.
I think it's
great
just,
things.
I think it's the way she does things. So I think it's her way of being whenever she's doing, like, she's so intentional about. And both of us were hustling at the time, going from 11 jobs, like working at this studio, doing this studio, having a client. Because we met, she taught at Thrive. She was a yoga teacher at Thrive. That's how we met. The first time we met, we cried and did yoga in the back room, and Lala was making fun of us. She's like, y'all back there crying and doing yoga again? Yes, bitch. Anyways.
That is crazy.
First time we met, we just flowed together and ended up crying, and we've been homies ever since. But it's just the way she intentionally, like, in between clients, would always go to the beach, would meditate in her car, would do all these little things. And I'm like, oh, wow, why am I not more intentional and thinking about, like, more present with myself through everything that's going on? Yeah, more inward focus, more intuitive, more in alignment with my feelings, not just my goals. I'm really good at being in alignment with my goals, but it took practice to learn how to be in alignment, like, with my spirit and with my heart and with myself and with my emotions, and really take that time to tune in.
And you know, we talk about there's a time for each of these spaces. I, every once in a while, get into that space where it's like something just doesn't quite feel right. And then I usually use that time every 6 to 8 months, and something will either change with my business or my routine or just something in general, because it's like, all right, what's not really aligned right now, and how do I figure it out? And I don't know how I figure it out, but I typically do. It's always something different, whether I just need to write some things down, and then a light bulb will connect, or maybe I'll say, okay, I feel like I just need to talk to more people right now and just have conversations, because something will come out of that. Like, whatever it is, that's the doing part, because now I do need to kind of explore and discover and figure out what the thing is, so that I feel more like I'm in a space where I can be more easily, or where things are lined up appropriately, because that is where I feel most successful, when I'm in a being state. But when I'm stressed out, or if finances aren't, or something's not right, or I just don't feel aligned, then I do have to stop. And for me, that's a sign of, okay, you need to figure out, like, what needs to be a fresh plan and some things to do to get back to the state that you need to be in. And a lot of times it's figuring out, like, listening to yourself.
I think it's all guided by our why, like figuring out, like, getting into alignment. So check in with yourself, always guided by your why, but there will always be doing. But it's kind of the same thing with me. Like, anytime I feel misaligned, it's because I'm really not checked in with myself. And I think maybe for all the high achievers and people who are doers and always, type 1 or type A, always going. If some things just aren't feeling right, it might be because there's that misalignment with your spirit or with whatever you're doing. And so always a good time to check in. I think also this quarter is perfect for this discussion, because as the weather changes, as we're about to be in the house a little bit more, you'll have more time to be.
Yeah. So this week, definitely look at your life, look at how you move, your mindset. Is being too much of a doer actually causing you stress? Or in this season, is that really moving you forward in a way that you need, so that you can be in a space of being? So look at that. Think about how you can take more time to, like, cut everything off around you and just be. And let us know your thoughts on this episode, what you got out of it, and how you're going to apply it moving forward.
At Carlie's Couch on all social media platforms.